who came up here and did that magnificent welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, Brother Scouts, Sister Guides, I have been, as you can imagine, I have been to many thinking days and founders' days all over the world, but believe me, this one was a total knockout. Yeah, I loved every minute of it, I really did. It was really super. Well done, girls. In a way, it made me feel very humble. Humble the fact that over 100 years ago, yes, 100 years ago, it all started, and that actually went back further than 100 years ago. I'm talking about Brownsea Island. I'm actually going back further than that. As some of you may know, Dutton Searing indicated that my late grandfather was a very famous British soldier who was commanding officer of a little township called Mafeking. And during the Boer War that erupted between 1899 and 1902, he commanded that little town. He defended that little town against an enemy of something like 10 to 1. In other words, for every one British soldier, there were 10 enemy. And yet, very underarmed, he had 700, would you believe, he had 700 men under arms, of which 400 had never ever picked up a rifle, would you believe? The rest of them hardly fired a shot anyway. And what was so extraordinary was by sheer bluff and nothing else, by sheer bluff, guts if I may use the word, and typical British determination, he held against an enemy 10 times his own size. What was so unique about it? Well, I'll tell you. What was so unique about it was the fact that the cadets at Mafeking, who he formed into a cadet corps, who ran messages from A to B, he formed them up into, I'd say, a scout group. But what is particularly interesting is out of this horrors of war, dreadful atrocities of war, out of this came what is arguably the world's greatest peace movement without doubt. In actual fact, in 1939, September 1939, no, earlier than that, in 1939, BP was actually nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. The only reason he never received the Peace Prize was because war broke out, World War II broke out, and there was no Nobel Peace Prize at all given to anybody that year. In fact, they had to wait until 1947 for the next Peace Prize to occur. Unfortunately, by that time, BP had since passed on. What is the objective of the movement? Well, the objective of the movement, irrespective of what colour, class or creed anyone may belong to, the objective is simply to create a little person's character. To get that young person, irrespective of what level of society they're from, to get that little person to develop their own characters. That's the key, character. And how do we do that? Very simply. The other day I was corrected, and I said about the greatest peace movement in the world, and somebody tried to correct me, quite within their rights. And they said, Michael, what about the Olympics? I said, oh yeah, what about the Olympics? Oh, they're the greatest peace movement. They bring people from all over the world, and they do this and they do that. I said, yes, they bring a lot of nationalism. The only thing that the press and the public are interested in is who's going to win the next gold ribbon for whatever. Who's going to win the most number of gold medals for that matter. Who ever talks about little Johnny come lately or little Jenny come lately who comes last? How often do the papers pick up and run with that story? They care little for the effort that little Johnny or little Jenny have made to even make the Olympics, let alone get there. Nothing is ever said about that. And yet the great thing about our great scouting and guiding movement is that we give every young person ample opportunity to find their own levels and to find out exactly what interests them. Ladies and gentlemen, isn't that what we're about at the end of the day? Nobody is better than everybody else. We're all basically at a common level. We're all doing our best to make this world a better world at the end of the day. You see, one of the great things about our guiding and scouting movement is that it speaks all languages. This is the great thing, and this is the reason why scouting and guiding spread across the world so quickly. In 100 years, it's now in something like 220 countries right throughout the world. We can boast a joint membership. I include our Girl Guides in this too, as well, Madam President. But seriously, 240 million young people. Hey, come on, guys and girls, we must be doing something right, mustn't we? And let me refer you, for example, to the 10 main key principles of what our movement stands for. Trusting, loyal, helpful, brotherly, sisterly, courteous, kind, obedient, smiling, thrifty, pure, yes, pure in body and mind. And when a young person, or an elderly person, or a middle-aged person takes up a promise, they don't do it in a cockatoo-type fashion. In other words, they just don't repeat it and repeat it for the sake of repeating it. No, it's more than that. You are placing yourself on your honour. Yes, your honour to do your best. And above all, ladies and gentlemen, above all, to uphold those 10 basic principles of life. This is what the movement is universally accepted for. And I believe in my own heart of hearts, this is the reason why the movement has spread as quickly as it has done in such a short time. I don't want to go on boring you to tears with philosophies and so on, but I'd just like to